Well, welcome to the 700 Club. After years of growth, China's church is under assault. Millions of Chinese have turned to Christ in recent decades, but now China's President Xi views the growing church as a threat to the Communist Party.
He's taking action to shut it down. Police are raiding churches and arresting pastors. George Thomas has more on the ideology that's fueling a widespread crackdown against Christians.
For the last 20 years, CBN News has documented the explosive growth in China's so-called underground or house church movement as millions in this officially atheistic nation converted to Christianity. Experts say what's been happening in China is part of an unprecedented revival that has practically touched every corner of the country, leading some to predict that China could become the world's most Christian nation by 2030. But this man wants to prevent that. Since taking power in 2012, China's President Xi Jinping has ordered authorities to shut down any house church not under communist government control.
Massive new wave of persecution has been happening in China.
Bob Fu, with U.S.-based China Aid, is documenting the widespread crackdown.
I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of churches were shut down, pastors were being arrested, and the prayer meeting were being raided.
Pastor Jing Mingri knows harsh tactics firsthand. In August, Jin, who led Zion Church, the largest unregistered congregation in Beijing, refused a government order to install closed-circuit surveillance cameras in the sanctuary. Weeks later, authorities outlawed the 1,500-member church and banned him from preaching.
It is probably the largest incident of the government using public power to apply pressure on a house church in the past 10 years, and it's still going on today.
Bob Fu says the crackdown is part of President Xi's ambition of sinicizing Christianity with Chinese characteristics and insisting that Christians pledge political loyalty to him and the Communist Party.
He is really wanting to take China to the Chairman Mao's old kind of path by exercising more political control and mind control, ideological kind of sinicization into the Communist Party's ideology.
Andrew Nathan of Columbia University says the government views Chinese Christians like dry kindling that could spark a political uprising against the government with the help of outside influence.
They think that foreign forces, the United States, missionaries and so forth, would like to spark up this tinder. So they don't see it only in a domestic context, they see it in a strategic context as well.
As authorities tear down and burn crosses, destroy Bibles, and replace images of Jesus Christ with posters of the Chinese president, Huang He, one of China's most prominent pastors arrested this month, boldly declared that Xi's godlike status was incompatible with the Christian faith and vowed to disobey all laws that go against the Bible. Now, after years of enjoying relative freedom from government interference, Christians like this woman, whose husband is under house arrest, worries about the future climate for China's Christians.
It's painful. The government says that we have religious freedom, but really there is no freedom at all.
George Thomas, CBN News.
Well, to underline that, there is religious freedom within China. It's part of their constitution. But the other piece that they need that they don't have is freedom of assembly. And so what is going on is the government is cracking down on assembly. But this is going even further than that. And it's a mistake to think it's just the house church movement. It's the Three Self Church. It's every registered church. They're now being required to have a loyalty to the Communist Party. And it's one of the oddest things you can imagine, that a Christian church would be required to pledge loyalty to a group that has atheism as one of its foundational principles. It's just incompatible. It's also incompatible with a free society. We're seeing a rise of a cult of personality again in China. We're also seeing it in Russia. And These things have a lifespan. The lifespan is the personality involved. But in the meantime, it's absolute oppression for the people underneath them, because unless you are loyal to them, and there's all kinds of paranoia in a president for life, he's constantly thinking people are trying to overthrow him or get him out of power. And so he's going to crack down and crack down and crack down. I really applaud Wang Li. This is a very courageous pastor who stood up for truth. And he stood up for freedom of conscience. He stood up for the right to believe in Christianity. He wrote a letter, and in that letter is an amazing declaration that I think all Christians everywhere should read. If the government is worried about setting off some kind of tinderbox, it's this kind of oppression that sets it off. It's not any kind of outside influence. It all happens from within. And this letter is something you should read, and you can read it at our website, cbnnews.com. Well, here at home, turmoil grips Washington, D.C. as the White House fights battles on several fronts. John Jessup has more from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. The nation's capital is in an uproar over Defense Secretary Jim Mattis's decision to step down and part ways with the administration, even as the president is embroiled in a fight with Congress over a government shutdown. Senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon has the details.
Days before Christmas, Washington typically slows down, but federal workers are preparing for a government shutdown as one of the president's most well-respected advisors steps down. Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis is leaving after the president's surprise decision to pull U.S. troops out of Syria.
He and the president have a good relationship, but sometimes they disagree.
Reaction to Mattis's resignation has even the president's supporters concerned about the future of foreign policy. Just read General Mattis' resignation letter. It makes it abundantly clear that we are headed towards a series of grave policy errors, which will endanger our nation, tweets Senator Marco Rubio. And in a statement, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell writes, "It is regrettable that the president must now choose a new Secretary of Defense, but I urge him to select a leader who shares Secretary Mattis's total commitment to America's service members." The news came in a tweet. General Jim Mattis will be retiring with distinction at the end of February. I greatly thank Jim for his service. In his resignation letter, Mattis writes, "Because you have the right to a Secretary of Defense whose views are better aligned with yours on these and other subjects, I believe it is right for me to step down from my position." They butted heads on the importance of America's international alliances like NATO. The final straw was the president's announcement that he's bringing home 2,000 troops from Syria, and reports the administration is preparing to draw down half its current troop level in Afghanistan to 7,000. Even Trump's staunchest supporters criticize his Syria decision.
We've got two choices to fight this war: in their backyard or our backyard.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, the House passed a stopgap funding measure to keep the government open through February. That includes $5.7 billion for the president's border security wall, along with nearly $9 billion in disaster relief. Now it's on to the Senate, where it needs 60 votes to pass, and Democrats aren't budging.
President Trump is plunging the country into chaos, throwing a temper tantrum, and creating the Trump shutdown of the government.
The conservative House Freedom Caucus played a pivotal role in getting funding for the wall. Caucus Chairman Mark Meadows led the charge, calling on the president to reject a Senate compromise that did not include funding for the border wall.
Mr. President, we're going to back you up if you veto this bill.
Growing uncertainty in Washington, on top of concerns about trade with China and rising interest rates, is not the Christmas present investors hoped for. Thursday, the Dow dropped to its lowest level in more than a year. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, Jennifer. And continuing with news from Capitol Hill, the House of Representatives voted to repeal a measure long used to penalize churches and other religious groups. The Johnson Amendment allows the IRS to audit Christian ministries and nonprofits, as well as withhold tax-exempt status for political activity. Faith and Freedom Coalition's Ralph Reed says repealing the Johnson Amendment will restore the right to political speech by pastors, churches, and ministries. The repeal is part of a larger bill extending tax relief and protecting retirement savings. It also clarifies churches don't need to pay taxes on employee benefits like parking spots. Well, tornadoes swept through Florida Thursday, part of a storm that's barreling up the East Coast. Homes were devastated as tornadoes hit Orlando and Manatee. One person was injured when a twister tore off the roof from this house. High winds ripped through Jacksonville, knocking out power lines. Now heavy rain is moving north into the mid-Atlantic and east, as much as 2 inches an hour in some places, this after 2 storm systems collided. The nasty weather is expected to snarl holiday travel on the roads and at airports. Well, Christmas can be a tough time for families with financial struggles, so that's why Operation Blessing teamed up with like-minded groups to help them celebrate the holiday. The annual Christmas Depot brought moms and dads from all over the Virginia Beach area to fill their carts with presents to put under the tree. This week-long event brought together the Salvation Army alongside the United States Marine Corps, Toys for Tots, and Operation Blessing to help parents make Christmas a special time. After they finished filling their carts with gifts, everyone received a bag full of groceries from Operation Blessing. For parents like Tammy, it means her son will have gifts and a full meal on Christmas Day.
I actually was diagnosed with cancer in August, so I haven't worked for a few months, so this is my way to give my son Christmas. Words can't say thank you enough.
Operation Blessing donated enough food for 3,500 families to have stuffing, cranberry sauce, and canned vegetables with their Christmas dinner, making Christmas brighter for thousands of families. Gordon?
Well, that's what we do at Operation Blessing. We want to help people. And this Christmas season, we invite you to join with the Robertson family tradition. That tradition is whatever money we're going to spend on Christmas dinner, Christmas Eve dinner, we're going to give an equal amount to help those in need. So if you'd like to do that, give us a call, 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to give to Operation Blessing. There's also a place you can go to on cbn.com where you can give, or you can go to the Operation Blessing website, ob.org. Any way you do it now. 1-800-700-7000.